The night Mara Hale was rejected, it wasn't done with silence or mercy. It was done with laughter that didn't even try to hide. Crystal glasses clinking, a string quartet playing through the tension, phones angled just right so her humiliation would live forever online. She stood in a pale blue dress that suddenly felt like a costume, while Vivian Caldwell, her fiancé's mother, held a folder like a verdict and said, "We ran the numbers. Love doesn't pay bills, and you don't qualify." Mara didn't cry at first, not in front of them. She just watched Grant, her Grant, stare at his shoes like the floor had answers he didn't. And when she finally turned to leave, a man in work boots stepped out near the service entrance, carrying a stack of boxes like he belonged to the shadows. He glanced at her once, not with pity, but with something sharper. "Don't go home yet," he said quietly. "They're about to blame you for something you didn't do." If you like stories where the truth wins, slowly, painfully, and then all at once, subscribe, because what happened next didn't just change Mara's life, it collapsed an empire. There are certain moments you replay, not because you want to, but because your mind insists the past must contain a loophole. Mara replayed that night in the Caldwell Country Club like a broken film reel. Vivian's manicured hand tapping the folder, the soft murmur of wealthy guests pretending not to listen, and Grant standing beside his mother as if he'd been placed there, not by choice, but by gravity. Vivian smiled in that practiced way that said, "I'm about to hurt you and make it sound like wisdom." "We're not cruel," she said, tilting her head like this was compassion. "We're practical. Marriage is an investment, and Mara, you don't come with enough." A few people laughed, the way they laugh when they want the powerful person to like them. Someone's phone camera lifted higher. Mara tried to speak. She did. She opened her mouth and felt every sentence collide inside her throat. She wanted to say she had a job, she had a degree, she had a heart that had carried Grant through his darkest moods. She wanted to say she had value that didn't fit into Vivian's tidy ledger. But then Vivian slid the folder open and pulled out pages, old rent receipts, a credit report, a screenshot of Mara's mother's foreclosure notice from years ago, things that were not supposed to be public, things that made the room lean forward. "We can't attach our name to instability," Vivian concluded, and the word instability landed like a stamp on Mara's forehead. Grant finally looked up, and Mara felt a tiny, desperate hope flicker. This is where he stands up, she thought. This is where he says, enough. But he didn't. He swallowed, and his voice came out thin. "Mara, maybe we should talk later." Later, like love was an appointment he could reschedule. Mara stared at him for a heartbeat too long, then nodded once, because begging would be a second humiliation, and walked out, the string quartet warping behind her like a dream turning sour. Outside, cold air slapped her awake. She stood near the service corridor, arms wrapped around herself, trying to remember how to breathe. Her phone buzzed with notifications she couldn't bear to open. A door opened and a man stepped out with boxes, dressed in plain work clothes, boots scuffed, hair slightly too long like he'd forgotten he had somewhere important to be. He looked at Mara like he'd seen this kind of cruelty before and didn't find it entertaining. "Don't go home yet," he said, softly. Mara blinked, throat tight. "What?" "They'll come for your name next," he added, eyes flicking toward the glittering windows behind her. Mara forced herself to stand straighter. "Who are you?" The man adjusted the boxes in his arms. "Someone who's been watching the Caldwells for a long time, and someone who knows what they do when they don't get their way." Before Mara could respond, her phone buzzed again. One new message from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Now." And in the cold shadow of the service entrance, Mara understood. The rejection wasn't the end of her story. By morning, the rejection wasn't just an event. It was a story, edited, framed, and handed to the town like a gift. The clip made the rounds online with captions that made Mara look desperate, unstable, gold-digging. People who had smiled at her last week now looked through her at the grocery store. Even the barista who used to draw a little sun next to her name stopped making eye contact. Mara tried to anchor herself in routine, because routine is what you cling to when your identity is slipping. At work, the air was wrong, too still, too polite. HR was waiting. Her manager wouldn't meet her eyes. A printed stack of emails sat on the table, messages she hadn't written, sent from her address, discussing internal documents and payments. The words were almost right, almost her tone, like a mask molded from her face. "We need you to explain these," HR said, and the softness in their voice felt rehearsed. Mara's hands shook as she read. Her name at the bottom of each email looked like a forgery of her life. "This isn't me," she said. "I didn't send these." She expected disbelief. What she didn't expect was the certainty on their faces, like the decision had been made long before she arrived. "There's also a transfer," her manager added, sliding another page forward. "Bank information, a flagged transaction, a vendor name she didn't recognize. Compliance is involved. They're taking this seriously." Mara's chest tightened. "You think I stole from the company?" Nobody answered directly. That's how you know they do. She walked out with a cardboard box that held her desk plant, 2 pens, and a framed photo of her and Grant from a summer festival, back when she believed love was enough. She tossed the photo in the trash bin by the elevator without looking. Her landlord texted that afternoon asking too casually if she'd be moving out soon. An old friend messaged, "Just ignore the gossip, it'll pass," like humiliation was a weather pattern. Her aunt called and said, "Don't fight rich people, honey. It never ends well." Every voice carried the same instruction: shrink, disappear. At 6:09 p.m., Mara stood behind the loading dock of a warehouse, heart beating like a warning. At 6:10, the man in work boots stepped out from behind a stack of pallets. He set the boxes down gently, as if even cardboard deserved respect. "My name's Eli," he said. "Eli Reed." Mara didn't trust easily, not after watching a man she loved choose silence over her. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Eli's eyes were calm, but there was something watchful underneath. "Because they framed you, and they did it because you're convenient." "Convenient for what?" Mara whispered. Eli's gaze flicked to the street, then back. "Because you're not the target," he said. "You're the cover." Mara felt her stomach drop, as if the ground under her life had shifted again. "I don't even know what that means." "It means," Eli said, lowering his voice, "they're hiding something bigger, and they needed a name the town would believe was desperate enough to steal." He paused. "Take the job I'm about to offer you, or they'll bury you so deep you'll start believing you deserve it." The job Eli offered sounded small on paper. Short-term contract work at a local firm that handled compliance support from multiple companies, vendors, accountants, logistics, records, cross-checking, data cleaning. It was the kind of work nobody bragged about, which made it the perfect hiding place for truth. Mara stared at the envelope he held out, an advance that felt too heavy for what he claimed to be. She didn't take it at first. "You want something," she said. Eli nodded, almost relieved by her suspicion. "I want you to keep your eyes open," he admitted. "Your instincts are good, and the Caldwells used your name for a reason. You might be the only person who can tell us what's fake and what's real." "Us?" Mara repeated. For the first time, Eli hesitated. It was the smallest pause, but Mara noticed. "People who don't like thieves," he said carefully. "People who don't like bullies." Mara thought of Vivian's folder, of Grant's silence, of those emails that wore her name like stolen clothing. She wanted to say no, she wanted to hide, but she'd already seen what happened when you stayed quiet. The loudest people decided who you were. So she took the envelope. Eli nodded once, as if he'd been waiting for that specific kind of bravery. "Tomorrow, 8 a.m., you'll start in records." He paused, then added, "And Mara, whatever you do, don't show them you're afraid."
Mara swallowed. And if I am afraid? Eli's voice softened, not sweet, just honest. Then we do it afraid, but we do it anyway. As he walked away, Mara noticed something odd. His hands, scarred in a way that didn't match a man who claimed to be temporary labor. Those weren't the hands of someone who moved boxes for a living. Those were the hands of someone who'd carried weight for years. And Mara had the strangest, most dangerous thought. Maybe this man wasn't who he said he was.
The office Eli brought her to looked like a place built to disappear inside. Neutral paint, low voices, too many closed doors. Mara's title was small, records support. Her tasks were smaller, file vendor invoices, cross-check dates, flag discrepancies. It should have been mindless, it should have been safe. But by lunchtime she noticed the pattern. Certain vendors always got paid fast, even when their invoices were incomplete. Certain payments corrected themselves after being flagged, as if someone higher up was watching for anyone who dared to look too closely. The co-workers around her were pleasant in a surface way, but their eyes slid off anything uncomfortable. They'd learned how to survive. Don't be interesting. Eli appeared sometimes in the halls, never where a normal temp would be. One moment he was pushing a cart of supplies, the next he was standing near a conference room with executives, listening like he belonged there. Nobody questioned him. People rarely question someone who looks like they don't matter. In the records room, Mara found files that made her stomach tighten. Contracts tied to Caldwell Holdings, hidden behind layers of shell companies with names that meant nothing. The same vendor names appeared again and again, like a song stuck on repeat. Mara started writing details on a legal pad she kept tucked inside her bag like a secret. Late afternoon, she opened a drawer she hadn't touched before and froze. Inside was a thin folder labeled Mara Hale, Internal. Her breath caught. The date stamped on the top page was months old. Mara's fingers trembled as she flipped through it. Notes about her credit history, a summary of her relationship with Grant, even a mention of her mother's health. It read like a private investigator's report, compiled by someone who had decided she was a problem long before she ever knew she was being watched. The door creaked behind her. Mara spun, folder clutched to her chest. Eli stood there, expression unreadable, as if he'd walked into a scene he'd been expecting. His gaze flicked to the folder, then to Mara's face. "You weren't supposed to find that yet," he said quietly. "Yet?" Eli exhaled like a man choosing which truth to give. "Mara, I need you to trust me a little longer." "Trust you?" she whispered. "I don't even know you." Eli stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I know," he said, "and I'm sorry, but if you want your name back, you can't flinch now, not when you're standing this close to what they're hiding." Mara stared at him, the folder heavy with proof that her life had been planned like a demolition. "Who made this?" she demanded. Eli didn't answer directly, he just said, "Put it back, and tonight, don't go straight home." Mara's blood went cold. "Why?" Eli's jaw tightened. "Because once they realize you're not broken, they'll try harder." Mara's first real breath of relief came from the building's security desk. Ron, the evening guard, had kind eyes and a slow way of talking that made people feel less hunted. He noticed Mara's tense shoulders, the way she checked behind herself in reflective windows. He offered her a paper cup of coffee one night without asking for anything in return. "You look like someone kicked the ground out from under you," Ron said gently. Mara almost laughed at how accurate it was. She didn't tell him everything at first, but the truth has gravity. It pulls its way out of you. By the end of the week, she'd told him enough for his face to soften with recognition. "The Caldwells," Ron murmured, as if the name carried a smell. "Yeah, I've seen their kind." "Have they done this before?" Mara asked. Ron hesitated, then nodded. "Not always this loud, but yeah,
Women who don't fit their picture, people who ask questions, they get pushed out. Quietly. A resignation, a rumor, a mental health break. He tapped the desk once, thoughtful. There was a woman 2 years ago. Tessa knew her better. Accounting. Smart. Too smart. Mara's pulse quickened. What happened to her? Ron's eyes flicked toward the hallway, careful. She left town. That's what everyone says. But I saw her crying in the parking lot after a meeting with an attorney from Caldwell Holdings. Next day, gone. No goodbye. That night, Mara walked to her car with her keys threaded between her fingers like claws. Halfway across the lot, she noticed a sedan idling near the exit, headlights off. She couldn't see the driver. Her phone buzzed. A message from Eli. Don't get in your car. Walk back inside, now. Mara turned around calmly, as if she'd forgotten something, and walked back toward the building with her spine rigid and her breath shallow. Only when the doors shut behind her did she allow herself to shake. Ron looked up, alarmed. You okay? Mara swallowed hard. I think they're watching me. Ron's voice dropped. Then hear me, Mara. If you're asking questions, watch your tires. They don't like questions. And in the quiet hum of the lobby, Mara realized this wasn't just about her reputation anymore. The next time Mara saw Eli, it was after hours in the records room, when the building felt hollow and every sound echoed like a confession. She walked in and found him standing at the cabinet she'd been sorting, a key card in his hand that definitely wasn't issued to a temp. Mara stopped. You said you were temporary. Eli turned slowly, as if he'd already rehearsed this moment. I said I was here to help, he corrected. I didn't say the rest because it would have scared you off before you could protect yourself. Protect myself from what? Mara demanded. They didn't frame you because you're weak, Eli said. They framed you because you're clean. No one would suspect you, and if anyone did, your life is easy to tear apart. Mara's throat tightened. So what are they hiding? Vendor fraud, Eli said. Kickbacks, shell companies, money moved through contracts that look legitimate until you read them like someone who's been lied to before. He paused. And the Caldwells are at the center of it. Mara's mind spun. Then why use me? Eli said, because they needed a name to stick on a transfer, a person the town would be happy to blame. Mara's hands curled into fists. And you're investigating them? Eli nodded. Yes. Who hired you? Eli hesitated, then said, someone with the power to end it. But power means nothing without proof. Mara stared at the files. So you want me to help you prove it? I want you to help me separate what's real from what they fabricated, because you know the internal language. You know what sounds like you and what doesn't. What if they find out? Mara whispered. Eli's eyes softened. Then I'll make sure you're not standing alone, he said. Mara held his gaze, fear and purpose twisting together. Then she nodded. Tell me what you need. Eli exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for days. Courage, he said, and a steady hand.
Grant showed up at Mara's apartment after the damage was done, holding a small bouquet like it could erase a public rejection and a destroyed career. His coat looked expensive. He smelled like the life he'd chosen over her. Mara, he said softly, can we talk? Mara didn't invite him in. Say what you came to say. Grant's eyes flicked past her shoulder, as if he hoped to see that her life had fallen into a mess. When he didn't, his mouth tightened. My mom, things got out of hand, he said. You know how she is. Mara's laugh was short and bitter. Yes, I do. He switched tactics. I'm trying to help you. There's a way to make this go away. He pulled out an envelope, thick. Sign an NDA, stop talking to anyone, stop digging, and my family will contribute. You can start over somewhere else. Somewhere else, like she was the stain and the solution was moving the rug.
Mara stared at the envelope. You think money fixes what you let them do to me? Grant's expression flickered with irritation. Mara, don't do this. You're making it worse. Worse? Mara's voice sharpened. They framed me, Grant. They're calling me a thief. I lost my job. People spit my name like it's dirty. Grant's eyes hardened for half a second before he smoothed them again. Then be smart, Grant. Take the money, let it fade. You don't win against my mother. Mara's heart broke in a quiet, final snap. So that's it? That's what you believe? That I'm supposed to accept being destroyed because your mother is powerful? Grant's jaw clenched. I believe you should be grateful I'm offering you a lifeline. Mara stared at him. You're not offering me a lifeline, she said. You're offering me a muzzle. She didn't slam the door. She closed it gently. That hurt him more. That night, Mara stepped into the hallway and froze. Spray painted on her door in black letters were 2 words: thief, liar. She took a photo, hands steady. And when Eli texted, "Are you okay?" she typed back only 3 words: I'm done playing.
The town had a way of pretending cruelty was drama, as if labeling pain made it harmless. Mara's aunt called again. "Drop it, honey," she pleaded. "You'll ruin your life." Mara almost screamed, because her life had already been ruined, just not by her. Eli met her in a diner off the highway, where the coffee tasted burnt and the booths had cracked leather. It was the kind of place where nobody listened too hard, because everyone had their own grief. Eli sat across from her, shoulders tense, eyes scanning the room like instinct. "They're escalating," Mara said, sliding her phone across the table to show the photo of her door. "Someone followed me after work." Eli's jaw tightened. "I know." "You know, and you didn't tell me?" "If I told you everything, you'd run," Eli said quietly, "and I can't blame you for that, but running is what they're counting on." Mara's voice broke with exhaustion. "I'm so tired, Eli." Something softened in him. "I know," he said, "and you shouldn't have to be strong every minute, but you have to be strong at the right ones." He slid a single page toward her, metadata logs, device IDs, proof the emails had been generated from a device that wasn't hers. "This doesn't clear you on its own," he warned, "but it proves the accusation is engineered." Mara stared at the page, breath-catching. "So, we can fight." Eli nodded. "We can trap them," he said. "We set a controlled document drop, something they'll try to destroy, and when they move, we record it." Mara's fingers tightened around the paper like it was warmth. "And if they try to hurt me?" Eli didn't promise magic. He promised presence. "Then you won't be standing alone," he said. And Mara realized this was the first time anyone had offered her protection without demanding her silence.
Tessa worked 2 floors above Mara, in an office where the air smelled faintly of printer ink and peppermint tea. She was older, late 50s, with a posture that said she'd learned to survive rooms that didn't want her. When Mara finally got a moment alone with her, Tessa didn't pretend she didn't know. "I saw the video," Tessa said quietly. "I'm sorry." Mara's jaw tightened. Everyone saw it. Tessa's eyes sharpened. "That's why it was done publicly," she said. "Public shame is a leash. It keeps you from fighting back because you think everyone is watching." She paused. "But not everyone is watching to judge you, Mara. Some are watching to see if you'll stand." Mara swallowed. "Ron said there was a woman in accounting who disappeared." Tessa's face tightened, pain passing through. "Lena," she whispered. "She was brilliant. She flagged a set of contracts that didn't make sense. 2 days later, she was called into a meeting with outside counsel. She came out shaking. She told me they said they'd ruin her father's business if she didn't correct her misunderstanding." Mara's stomach clenched. "What happened?" Tessa's voice went smaller. "She left town. No goodbye, no forwarding address. But before she went, she gave me a flash drive." Mara's heart stuttered. "A flash drive?" Tessa nodded, eyes glistening. "I never opened it," she admitted. "I was afraid. I told myself it wasn't my fight. Then the next woman got crushed, and the next." She looked at Mara with something like apology. "I've hated myself for years." Mara breathed in slowly. "Do you still have it?"
Tessa's hand trembled as she reached into her purse and set a tiny USB drive on the desk like it weighed 100 pounds. "If you're going to do this," she said, voice firming, "do it right. Do it with someone who can protect you, because they don't just destroy files, they destroy people." Mara slid the drive into her palm. It felt warm, like it had been waiting. Outside the office, Mara's phone buzzed. A text from Eli. "We just got a new piece. Meet me, now."
The plan was careful, not cinematic, built from patience and the kind of attention that turns a lie into a confession. Eli explained it in pieces, like he didn't want to burden Mara with the whole weight at once. A controlled document, a false offer, a meeting where Vivian Caldwell would think she was buying Mara's silence, only to reveal what she truly feared. Mara practiced in the mirror, not her smile, but her steadiness. She would have to act like the woman they believed she was, desperate, embarrassed, ready to trade dignity for relief. It made her skin crawl, but she understood something now. Sometimes you had to wear their assumptions like armor, just long enough to walk into the room. The meeting was set in a private lounge at a hotel downtown, neutral territory that still smelled like money. Vivian arrived with the confidence of someone who believed consequence was for other people. She wore pearls and a cream coat, looking like respectability made flesh. Beside her was the company's CFO, Daniel Klein, a man with eyes too empty for someone who claimed to care about budgets. Mara walked in alone. She felt Eli's presence from a distance, not beside her, but close enough that she wasn't truly alone. Vivian's eyes skimmed Mara like she was checking for damage. "Well," Vivian said, voice smooth, "you've had a difficult week." Mara forced her voice steady. "I want it to stop." Vivian leaned back, satisfied. "Good," she said. "Then you'll sign what I put in front of you." Klein slid papers across the table, an NDA, a settlement, and a quiet threat disguised as legal language. Mara's stomach tightened. She picked up the pen, hand shaking just enough to sell it. Vivian smiled. "See," she murmured, "this is what happens when people accept reality." Mara looked at her. "Reality," she repeated softly. "Or your version of it." Vivian's smile thinned. "Careful," she warned. Mara inhaled slowly. "There's something else," she said, pulling out a folder. "I have proof of where the transfer really went." For the first time, Vivian's composure cracked, just a hairline fracture. "What proof?" she snapped. Mara slid the folder across. Inside was what Eli had planted, a document valuable enough to panic over, traceable enough to expose whoever tried to destroy it. Vivian's fingers tightened. "Give this to me," she demanded. And Mara knew the trap had worked, because Vivian wasn't asking anymore.
What Vivian didn't know, what Klein didn't know, was that the document was designed like a lantern. Anyone who touched it, anyone who tried to copy it, would light themselves up in the system Eli's people had built. But the bigger twist arrived not through technology. It arrived through a sentence Klein muttered when he thought Mara couldn't possibly understand. "This will cover the pension gap," he murmured, irritated, "just like last time." Mara's stomach dropped. "Pension?" she repeated. Klein looked up too quickly. Vivian's eyes flashed warning, but it was already too late, because that one word cracked the whole world open. After the meeting, Mara went straight to Eli. He was waiting in a parked car a block away, hands on the wheel, eyes hard with restraint. The moment she slid in, she blurted, "They said pension. Eli, what does that mean?" Eli stared forward, then exhaled like a man admitting the fire is bigger than he told you. "It means," he said quietly, "this isn't just them stealing from their own company." Mara's breath caught. "Then who?" "Employees," Eli said. "Retirees. People who worked their whole lives believing the system would protect them." He paused. "And a charity fund. Community money. Donations that were supposed to pay for scholarships, medical support. Things that keep people afloat." Mara felt nauseous. Her name, used as a smokescreen for theft that would destroy real families. She pressed a hand to her mouth. "They used me," she whispered. "They used me to hide that." Eli nodded. Because if anyone looked too closely, they'd find the path. They needed a person the town would be happy to blame. Mara's eyes filled, not with self-pity, but fury. Then we don't just clear my name, she said. We bring them down. Eli's voice went low. If we do this right, he said. His eyes held hers. They lose everything.
The next week was a tightrope. Mara moved through the office like a shadow with purpose, smiling when she had to, staying quiet when silence was safer, collecting details like pebbles that would later become a landslide. Eli stayed close without being obvious, but sometimes, when Mara looked at him too long, she saw something beneath the disguise. Discipline, education, authority he kept leashed. One night, as Mara left the building, she noticed Eli's car door ajar. She hadn't meant to look inside, but her eyes caught on something that didn't belong. A tailored suit jacket folded carefully on the back seat, expensive fabric catching the streetlight. On the floor near it, a leather portfolio with embossed initials. Mara's stomach tightened. She backed away and heard Eli behind her. Mara. She turned. He was watching her face like he already knew what she'd seen. "Who are you?" Mara whispered. "Not here," Eli said. "Not in the open." He guided her to a quieter side street. For a long moment he said nothing. "I didn't plan to care," he admitted finally. "This was supposed to be work. Clean." Mara's throat tightened. "And I'm what? Collateral?" Eli's eyes flashed with pain. "No," he said. "You're the reason I can't do this the way I used to." Mara stared at him, breath trembling. "So which part is real?" Eli stepped closer, respectful, not touching. "The part that wants you safe," he said quietly. "The part that can't stand what they did to you. That's real." "Then tell me your real name," Mara said. Eli hesitated, then shook his head. "Not yet," he said. "Once you know, they'll come for you harder, and I'm not ready to put that on you." Mara swallowed, hurt mixing with understanding. "Fine," she whispered. "But if you lie again, I'm gone." Eli nodded. "Fair," he said. "And Mara, I'm sorry." They didn't strike back with fists. They struck back with systems, legal papers, rumors, and the quiet violence of reputation. Police showed up at Mara's door with a notice. Vivian Caldwell had filed a restraining order, claiming Mara was stalking the family, posing a threat. It was absurd. It was calculated. It was meant to make Mara look unstable on record. Eli's face went hard when he saw it. "They're trying to label you," he said. "If they can make you look dangerous, nobody believes you." That week, Mara's tire went flat. Clean puncture, not a nail. The next day, a key file was missing from the records room. A drawer Mara used had been opened. Nothing stolen, just disturbed. A warning. Mara sat on the floor of the records room afterward, back against the cabinet, trying not to cry. Eli found her there. He crouched beside her. "They're pushing you toward quitting," he said. Mara's voice shook. "Maybe I should. Maybe I'm not built for this." Eli's eyes held hers. "You're built for truth," he said, "and truth scares them more than any courtroom." Mara wiped her face. "I'm done running," she said. Eli's expression shifted, decision settling into place. "Then I may have to stop hiding," he admitted. Eli didn't take Mara to a mansion. He took her to a quiet top-floor office downtown, the kind of place power prefers because it doesn't need applause. The elevator opened into a private hallway. The carpet swallowed footsteps. Mara stood still. "Where are we?" Eli looked at her for a long moment, then said, "Somewhere I can finally tell you the truth." He opened a drawer and pulled out a folder labeled with a name Mara recognized, Elias Mercer. Mara's breath caught. Mercer Group. Everyone knew it. The kind of company people accused of being too big to be human. "My real name is Elias Mercer," he said, "and I'm the majority stakeholder in a chain of companies the Caldwells do business with." He paused. "I came here because I got a tip about fraud being laundered through contracts tied to my network. I needed proof before I could move without them slipping away." Mara's knees felt weak. "So you used me?" "I involved you," Elias said softly, "because they used you first.
And because I believed you'd rather have a chance to fight than be left alone in the dark. Mara's eyes burned. You tested me. Elias nodded once, not denying it. I watched how you handled cruelty, he admitted. Not because I doubted your worth, because I needed to know if you'd break under pressure, if the case would collapse and put you in more danger, and because I didn't expect to care. His voice thickened. But I do. Mara looked away, tears slipping. How do I know this isn't another manipulation? You don't, Elias said honestly. That's why you get a choice. He slid a document across the desk. Protection, relocation, legal support. No strings. You can walk away. I'll still finish this. Mara stared at it, then up at him. And if I don't walk away? Then you stand beside me, Elias said, publicly, and you tell the truth in a room that will try to drown you. Mara inhaled slowly. No, she said. Elias blinked. No. I'm not walking away, Mara said, voice steadying. I'm walking in.
The board meeting was scheduled like any other. Agenda emailed, coffee catered, polished smiles rehearsed. That's how powerful people prefer their consequences. Tidy, contained, behind closed doors. Vivian Caldwell arrived as if she'd already won, wearing a navy suit that screamed authority. Grant sat near her, posture stiff, eyes darting like a man who knew he'd gambled his soul on the wrong table. Mara walked in with Elias, and the room shifted. People didn't recognize Mara at first, not as the thief from Rumor Mill, but as a woman who had stopped apologizing for existing. Elias looked different too. No work boots, no boxes, a tailored suit that fit like truth. Vivian's smile froze. Who is this? She snapped. Elias didn't wait. He placed a folder on the table. My name is Elias Mercer, he said calmly, and I'm here because fraud has been committed through contracts tied to Mercer Group and Caldwell Holdings. Vivian's face tightened. Outrageous. Elias clicked a remote. The screen lit up. Transfers, vendor names, shell company structures, timestamps, metadata logs. A web of theft laid out cleanly. Undeniable. Grant's face strained. Mom, he whispered. Vivian's gaze cut to him like a blade. Say nothing, she hissed. Mara stepped forward. They framed me, she said. They forged emails from my account. They took private information about my family. They publicly humiliated me so the town would believe I was capable of stealing. She held the board's gaze. And they did it because my name was easier to destroy than theirs. Vivian snapped, pointing at Mara. You seduced him, she spat. You've been chasing money this entire time. The room went still. Old sexism, easy and lazy. Mara didn't flinch. She set the Mara Hale internal folder on the table and opened it to the first page, letting the date show. This was made months before I was accused, Mara said calmly, which means they planned my destruction long before they claimed I did anything wrong. A hush fell. You could feel it, the moment a building realizes the support beams are gone. Elias's voice turned colder. Caldwell contracts are suspended effective immediately, he said, and legal action has already been filed. Vivian's mouth opened, but the power had left her voice. For the first time, she looked like what she truly was. Not untouchable, just exposed.
Consequences don't arrive with fireworks. They arrive with paperwork, with phone calls that go unanswered for the first time in a person's life. Caldwell Holdings came under investigation. Accounts were audited. Donors pulled out. Partners distanced themselves with polite statements about integrity. Grant tried to call. Mara didn't answer. Vivian's social circle began to evaporate. Invitations stopped. Sponsors vanished. The kind of woman who once used a folder to humiliate someone now sat behind attorneys, face tight, eyes darting, realizing that power built on control collapses when control is taken away. Elias announced a restitution plan. Funds returned to pension accounts, charity programs restored, scholarships reopened. Mara sat in meetings and watched him listen, not perform, listen. When Elias offered Mara her old job back, with a formal apology and a public statement clearing her name, Mara surprised herself by shaking her head. I don't want to go back to who I was, she said quietly. I want to build something better. Elias's gaze softened. Then tell me what you want, he said. A rule where I can stop this before it happens, Mara said. Compliance, ethics, a
a system that protects people without asking them to be perfect. Elias nodded once. Done, he said. Not because you suffered, because you're qualified. That sentence landed like sunlight.
One evening, Mara found a handwritten letter slipped under her door. The paper was expensive. The handwriting was familiar. Mara, it began. Grant didn't apologize the way people apologize when they understand the harm. He apologized the way people apologize when they finally feel the consequences. He wrote about pressure, about his mother, about impossible expectations. He wrote that he missed her. He wrote that he'd been scared. Mara sat on the floor and read it twice, feeling nothing but a quiet, clean clarity. She didn't hate him. She didn't love him. She simply saw him. A man who chose comfort. She folded the letter carefully, as if it were something fragile, then placed it in the trash. Some people don't get the privilege of closure. They get the lesson.
Months later, the air in Riverton felt different, not because the town had become kinder overnight, but because the truth had rearranged what people feared. Mara walked past the Caldwell Country Club one afternoon on her way to a community meeting, the building gleaming in the sun like it hadn't hosted a public execution of her dignity. She didn't stop. She didn't flinch. She simply kept walking. Her new office was smaller than the Caldwell's world had been, but it was cleaner. On her desk sat a framed letter from the scholarship program that had been restored, someone thanking her for fighting when it would have been easier to disappear. That evening, Elias met her outside the diner where they'd first planned the trap. He was dressed casually, no entourage, no performance. He held a small bag in one hand and a look in his eyes that made Mara's chest tighten in a softer way now. "I brought you something," he said. Mara raised an eyebrow. "If it's another folder, I'm leaving." Elias's mouth twitched. He pulled out a pair of work boots, brand new, ridiculously sturdy. Mara stared, then laughed, the sound surprising her with how free it felt. "You're impossible," she said. "They were part of the story," Elias said, "and I thought you might like owning the symbol instead of being haunted by it." Mara took the boots, then looked up. "Are you done hiding?" she asked softly. "With you," Elias said. "I don't want to." They stood there, diner lights warm behind them, night air calm. Mara squeezed the boots in her hands, then whispered, "They tried to bury my name." Elias leaned closer, voice low and sure. "All they did," he said, "was planted."
If you want more stories like this, where someone is underestimated, humiliated, and then rebuilt by truth, subscribe and stick around. The next one starts with a lie and ends with a door you'll be dying to see opened.